Setting boundaries, most of us grow up believing that setting boundaries means building walls, shutting people out, becoming distant, or being selfish. But the truth is, boundaries are not walls, they are bridges of respect. They are not built to isolate us, but to help us connect more honestly. When we fail to set them, we don't become more loving or giving, we become more resentful, more tired, and more lost. Boundaries are not about creating distance from others. They are about finding balance within ourselves. Think about it: when a river has no banks, the water floods and destroys everything around it. But when it flows within its natural boundaries, it nourishes the land, gives life, and sustains growth. The same is true for human relationships. Without boundaries, our energy spills everywhere. We give too much, we overcommit, and we begin to lose sight of who we are. With boundaries, our love, our time, and our focus have direction. We give with intention, not exhaustion. The reason so many people struggle to set boundaries is fear of being disliked, of disappointing others, of being seen as difficult. But what we forget is that every time we say yes when we mean no, we abandon ourselves a little. And that slow erosion of self-respect builds silent anger, not towards others, but towards ourselves. Over time, it turns into emotional fatigue, bitterness, and even burnout. Setting a boundary doesn't mean you love someone less. It means you love yourself enough to stay whole while loving them. Boundaries are also an act of honesty. They help others understand who we truly are and what we stand for. When we are unclear about our limits, we leave people guessing, and confusion breeds conflict. But when we communicate clearly, when we say, "This is what works for me, and this is what doesn't," we invite people into authentic relationships. We replace assumptions with understanding. True connection can only exist when both people know where the edges are. Boundaries make that possible. They are not shields to hide behind. They are structures that make trust sustainable. The people who truly value you will never be threatened by your boundaries. They will feel safer because of them. So the next time you hesitate to set a boundary, remember this: you're not pushing someone away. You're inviting them to meet the real you, the one who gives freely but not endlessly, who loves deeply but not desperately, who values peace more than pleasing. Boundaries don't separate us from others. They allow us to stand beside them with integrity, respect, and authenticity. We often think that saying no will make people think less of us. From a young age, we're taught to be agreeable, to be helpful, to cooperate, to say yes even when every part of us wants to say no. But the truth is, saying no is not an act of rejection. It's an act of respect, both for yourself and for the person you're speaking to. It means you care enough to be honest. It means you understand that real connection cannot exist where truth is absent. Every time you say yes to something that doesn't align with your values, you are silently saying no to something that does. You are borrowing time and energy from your future self, and the debt always comes due. We overextend ourselves, we become frustrated, and we blame others for taking advantage of us when in reality, it's not their fault for asking. It's ours for not setting limits. People will always take as much as we offer, not out of malice, but out of habit. The only person who can protect your time, your energy, and your peace is you. Saying no is not coldness. It's clarity. It's the ability to define what really matters. When you learn to say no to distractions, to overcommitment, to the constant need to please, you make space for better yeses. You create room for growth, creativity, rest, and purpose. You give your best to the things and people who truly matter, instead of giving fragments of yourself to everyone. The irony is that people respect those who know how to say no. It communicates strength, self-awareness, and direction. It shows that you are not driven by fear of disapproval, but by conviction. It inspires others to do the same, to set their own boundaries, to be more honest about their capacity. When you say no kindly and clearly, you're not closing a door, you're opening a path for healthier, more authentic relationships. The world doesn't need more agreeable people, It needs more truthful ones. It needs people who can say, I can't right now without guilt. People who can say, that's not for me, and still wish others well. People who understand that love without limits leads to exhaustion, not connection. So, the next time you feel that tightness in your chest when someone asks for one more favor, pause and ask yourself, am I saying yes because I want to, or because I'm afraid not to? If it's fear, then no is the kindest word you can speak to them and to yourself. Because saying no is not rejection, it's direction. It's how you protect your peace so your yes can mean something again. Every interaction we have with others silently teaches them how to treat us. Whether we realize it or not, we're always setting the standard through our words, our silences, and our reactions. When someone crosses a line and we say nothing, we send a message. This is acceptable. When we allow disrespect to go unchecked, it becomes permission. Over time, the small compromises we make in the name of peace slowly erode our self-respect. The tragedy is that most people don't mean to take advantage. They simply follow the cues we give them. We teach others how to treat us not through grand speeches, but through quiet consistency. If you value punctuality but tolerate constant lateness, you teach that your time is negotiable. If you say you need rest but always make yourself available, you teach that your boundaries are flexible. If you crave respect but stay silent when disrespected, you teach that your feelings are optional. Boundaries are the language through which we express our worth, and the world learns that language from us. It's easy to blame others for crossing our limits, but the truth is, people cannot honor boundaries that were never made clear. We assume others should just know what hurts us, what we can handle, what crosses the line. But clarity is kindness. Telling someone, I'm not comfortable with that, or I can't take on more right now, is confrontation, it's communication. And communication is the foundation of respect. The most respected people in any environment are not the loudest or the toughest, they are the clearest. They know who they are and what they stand for. They don't need to defend their boundaries aggressively because they express them calmly and consistently. Their strength is quiet but unmistakable, and because they live by their own values, others learn to adjust. When you begin teaching people how to treat you, something remarkable happens. Those who truly care about you begin to listen, while those who only benefited from your silence begin to fade. That's not loss, that's alignment. You begin to attract the kind of relationships that nurture rather than drain you. So remember, every yes and every no is a lesson to others about your worth. The way you allow people to speak to you, to demand from you, to show up for you, that's the curriculum you design for your life. And the beautiful truth is, you can rewrite it at any time. You have the power to retrain the world in how to treat you not through anger, but through self-respect, communicated with grace and consistency. We often fear that setting boundaries will push people away, that if we draw lines, we'll appear cold, distant, or difficult. But the truth is, boundaries don't weaken relationships, they strengthen them. Without boundaries, love becomes obligation, kindness turns into exhaustion, and connection becomes control. Boundaries are not the end of closeness, they are the foundation of trust. When we don't communicate what we need, resentment slowly builds in silence. We say yes when we want to say no. We keep giving, hoping the other person will notice our fatigue, our frustration, our quiet disappointment, but they rarely do, not because they don't care, but because we never told them. So, instead of honest communication, we end up with bitterness disguised as kindness. We withdraw emotionally, even as we stay physically present. And over time, that silent resentment does more harm than any spoken truth ever could. Boundaries change that. They take away confusion and replace it with clarity. When you say, I can't talk about this right now, or I need time for myself, you're not pushing someone away, you're showing them how to stay in your life in a healthy way. You're saying, I value this relationship enough to protect it from the things that could break it. That's not selfishness, that's maturity. Real love isn't about losing yourself in someone. It's about being fully yourself beside them. People sometimes mistake boundaries for rejection because they've never seen healthy ones modeled. But if you've ever been in a relationship, personal or professional, where expectations were unspoken and constantly shifting, you know how painful it can be. Boundaries bring stability. They let both people know what's safe, what's sacred, and what's off limits. They give the relationship room to breathe. The best relationships, whether between friends, partners, or colleagues, are built not on constant availability, but on mutual respect. When both sides can say, here's what I need, and trust that the other will honor it, intimacy deepens. Honesty replaces guessing. Security replaces anxiety. Boundaries don't break connection. They deepen it by allowing authenticity to thrive. So, don't fear the discomfort that comes with setting boundaries. Fear the quiet resentment that grows when you don't. Because relationships built on endless giving eventually collapse under the weight of unspoken truth. Boundaries are not about saying, I don't care. They are about saying, I care enough to make this sustainable. When you honor your limits, you give love a structure strong enough to last not a flood that destroys, but a river that flows with purpose and peace. One of the hardest lessons to learn is that setting boundaries will disappoint some people. You'll be misunderstood. You'll be called selfish, distant, or cold. But that's the price of living authentically. The truth is, you can't live a healthy, meaningful life if your sense of peace depends on everyone else's approval. There comes a time when you must choose between pleasing others and respecting yourself. And when that moment comes, choosing yourself isn't arrogance, it's survival. We're raised to believe that saying no makes us unkind, that self-sacrifice is noble, and that enduring discomfort in silence is a virtue. But every yes that comes at the expense of your peace eventually becomes a quiet betrayal of your own soul. Boundaries are how you end that betrayal. They are the way you teach others how to treat you, but more importantly, they are the way you teach yourself how to be treated. When you start enforcing boundaries, something remarkable happens. You begin to see who truly values you. Some people will leave not because you've changed, but because the version of you that required no boundaries was easier for them. Let them go. The people meant to stay will understand that love doesn't demand your exhaustion. They'll respect the space you need because they value who you are, not just what you give. Boundaries are uncomfortable, yes. But that discomfort is a sign of growth. Growth never happens in comfort. It happens in friction, in the tension between what you've always allowed and what you're no longer willing to tolerate. The first time you say, I can't do this right now, or this doesn't feel right to me, your voice may shake, but that's the sound of reclaiming your strength. That's the sound of freedom. True leadership in life, work, and relationships begins with self-respect. You can't lead others if you're constantly abandoning yourself. You can't give compassion if you're running on empty. You can't build trust if you're afraid of being honest. Boundaries make trust possible because they make you reliable both to others and to yourself. So, let people be disappointed. Let them misjudge you for protecting your peace. You're not responsible for how others feel about your boundaries. You're responsible for honoring the truth that built them. When you learn to stand by your limits without guilt, you stop chasing validation and start cultivating self-respect. And that quiet, grounded strength is where real love, real connection, and real happiness begin.